Liz Castro. I'm a writer and a publisher. I started living in Catalonia in 1987. Really interested in the Catalan language, Catalan culture. Feel very at home there. I live in Barcelona and have for the last several years. And have always felt it to be my mission to explain in English what's going on there. It is a complicated question. Catalonia has been part of Spain for 300 years. Since 1714, when it was conquered, there was a siege of Barcelona. It took a year. At that point, Catalonia lost its privileges, its constitution, its parliament, its government. But it has made an effort to be a part of Spain all that time. But every time it's had a chance for more democracy, it's strived for that democracy. The most recent history is that after Franco died, there was a new constitution. Catalans demanded a statute of autonomy. That worked well for, say, 25 years or so. And then in 2000, when there was an opportunity to have a new statute of autonomy with a perfect situation with friendly governments between Catalonia and Spain, they worked out a deal which was referended by the people. And the ruling PP party brought a suit against it and took out all of the important parts. This sparked indignation among the people who were already feeling frustrated about the relationship with Spain, and was pretty much the impetus for a series of demonstrations and mobilizations that have pretty much changed Catalan society over the last 10 years. We have seen citizen mobilizations of more than 1 million people every single year for the last 6 years, filling the streets in a show of peaceful, democratic, cheerful demands for self-rule, for at least to be able to vote on their own future. And Spain has consistently said, no, we're not going to listen to you, we're not interested in your complaints, we don't care. And Catalans have responded to that disdain with more demonstrations and more peaceful mobilization, saying, no, 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 we really are going to vote. We're going to respond in a democratic way, and we're going to insist that we get this right to vote. And so what they've done is they've elected a majority in the Catalan Parliament that had an electoral program of holding a referendum on independence. That referendum is scheduled for October 1st.
We have won the plebiscite. This is the important thing.
Will you go for independence now?
We have a clear, absolute majority in the Catalan Parliament to go ahead.
The Catalan president has insisted that that will go forward no matter what, as well as all of his cabinet and the Catalan government. The Spanish government has begun to crack down judicially, bringing people to court, arresting Catalan government officials, tearing down posters from walls, confiscating ballots, threatening people with prison time, all for attempting to exercise their democratic right to vote on their political future. Many people, I think for something like 40% of the population, Catalan is their mother tongue. Catalan is a Romance language. It's similar to Spanish, the way that Italian or French is similar to Spanish, but it's a distinct language. It's not a dialect. Everyone also speaks Spanish because that's required by Spanish law. Catalan, the language, has been outlawed numerous times throughout Spanish history. There have been times where you could be beaten, you could be imprisoned for speaking Catalan in public. You weren't allowed to speak it on the telephone. You weren't allowed to write, particularly under Franco, you weren't allowed to write in Catalan. You weren't allowed to have newspapers or books or anything in the Catalan language. People hold their languages dear in every part of the world. Everybody wants to speak their own language. That's as true in Catalonia as it is anyplace else. There are also many other things about Catalan culture that are different than cultures in other parts of the world. Most important of all, they feel themselves to be a people, to be a nation. That's the most important thing of all. It doesn't matter how other people see them. It doesn't matter what they do. It actually doesn't matter where they come from. There are Catalans, 70% of Catalans, one or both of their parents are from some other place, not Catalonia. And yet, together, we all feel as a nation, and as such, feel that we have the right to decide our own future. This current ruling Spanish party, the Partido Popular, is a direct descendant of the Alianza Popular, which was founded by Francoist ministers. So the link between the Franco dictatorship and the current ruling PP party is direct. And they have been racked by corruption cases. Alternate accounting ledgers were printed in the newspaper, on the front page of the newspaper, mentioning Rajoy and nothing happened. So there's this feeling of a lack of progress, a lack of response by the Spanish government, that the Spanish government is entrenched in this old Francoist corruption, political kickbacks, and it's terrible. So Catalonia becoming independent is a way of, and many people see it as a way of chipping away at what they call the regime of 1978. And even the new parties like the Podemos, the Yes You Can party, has begun to look at the Catalan Independence movement as a way of, just like you asked, shaking up the Spanish establishment, insisting that there be more transparency, that the corruption cases actually be brought to justice. Catalonia becoming independent is a way of saying we're not going to keep going just like normal. We're not just going to keep accepting everything you throw at us. So Catalans have made a huge effort to fit in with Spain, to become, to work together with the Spanish, to be able to live together peacefully. And the Spanish encroach on Catalan laws, trying to chip away at the Catalan language policy, or overturning Catalan laws that are not overturned in other regions of Spain. And the Catalans continue to complain and continue to insist on their own competencies and not letting Spain take those competencies back. And Spain continues to do that. There's a big struggle between the Constitutional Court and the Catalan legislation. So as a response to that, Catalans have said, you know, we believe that this relationship with Spain is just not working, and so we need to talk about it. And Spain said, no, we're not going to talk about it. So Catalans said, well, we want to vote on it. And it wasn't Catalan politicians, it was people who've mobilized and who've insisted on having different, and on being able to vote. And in fact, the very first vote took place in 2009 in a tiny little town called Arenys de Munt, population 8,000. They decided that they were going to ask their townspeople what they believed about whether Catalonia should be independent. Spain came down really hard on that, had a court, a judge say that that was not allowed. You're not allowed to ask your people what they think. And the town went ahead with it anyway. That sparked a whole series of informal polls in 500 towns all over Catalonia, in which 800,000 people participated. More than that, the groups that organized all of these informal polls started to create an infrastructure of people who are interested in promoting Catalan independence and at least being able to vote on that. That had a huge effect. That resulted in the creation of a group called the Catalan National Assembly, which is a civic grassroots organization completely funded by t-shirt sales and by membership dues. They don't receive any public money at all, and they have been advocating for Catalan independence since 2012. They're the ones that have been organizing these massive demonstrations in the streets of Barcelona and in fact all over Catalonia. One of the things that they have insisted on is that we be able to have an official referendum. In 2014, the Catalan president at the time and the government said that we could have an informal poll because the Spanish government said that it was not allowed to have a referendum. We couldn't have a non-binding referendum. And in fact, they ended up outlawing this unofficial participatory process, and they threatened people who took part in it. Nevertheless, 2,350,000 people took part in this unofficial poll in 2014, 80% of which voted yes. As a result of that, the president who helped facilitate that poll has been barred from office for 2 years. He was fined, I think, something on the order of 40,000 euros. 2 of his ministers were also barred from office and fined. But not only that, the poll was not official. And so again, we have insisted, we, the people of Catalonia who are interested in independence, have insisted on an official binding referendum. There was an election in 2015 that was an attempt at having an official election about independence, but unfortunately, even though 48% voted yes, 39% voted no, there were about 11% who didn't position themselves. So the third attempt now, or fourth, depending on how you're counting, to have an actual official binding referendum has been scheduled for October 1st. The Catalan government has passed legislation to give that referendum a legal framework so that it can be considered a legal referendum. The Catalan president has promised that this referendum will have actual real legal consequences, that it's a binding referendum, and that if there are more yes votes than no votes, on October 1st, he will declare independence within 48 hours. The Spanish government has responded again with judicial processes, with the Spanish paramilitary Guardia Civils coming in and arresting Catalan government officials. They have confiscated ballots. They have ripped down posters from the walls that say democracy or you have the capacity to decide. And they are doing everything in the Spanish power to keep that referendum from happening. Nevertheless, the Catalan president has insisted, and the Catalan government and all of civil society is completely united behind this effort to make sure that the referendum takes place and that Catalans are afforded the right to decide their own political future democratically and peacefully at the ballot boxes. Obviously, the more people that vote in the referendum, the more we'll know that it's an actual decision that's made by the people of Catalonia. The people who are in favor of independence, like myself, we would like more people to participate because we want to know what everybody's opinion is. There are some people who say that a referendum is divisive, but in fact, there are different opinions about this subject, and the best way, we believe, to come to a decision about it is to discuss it, to debate it, to have conferences, to answer questions about it, and then have this vote. So the more people that participate, the more valid the result will be. How likely is it that there will be high participation? Well, thanks to the Spanish government's harsh, strong-arm tactics, they are making it almost impossible for people to stand on the sidelines. I mean, when the Spanish government is arresting politicians who are just wanting to hold a democratic vote, it makes a lot of people think, well, I'm not sure that's the kind of state that I want to live in, even if they weren't formally in favor of independence. They have confiscated the envelopes that notify people about whether they're supposed to be at a polling station to be a poll worker, threatened to close the polling stations, or blocked the websites that give information, the official Catalan government websites that give information about how to vote, where to vote, what the issues are. The Spanish government is doing everything in its power to keep Catalans from voicing their opinions. They're doing everything in their power to not listen to what Catalans want, which is a shame in a 21st century democracy. They've brought out their paramilitary police in full riot gear, so it's really difficult to hold a referendum in those conditions. But the Catalan government and the Catalan people are insistent that what started as a democratic process, a peaceful process, is going to end as a democratic and peaceful process. The Catalans will not resort to violence. They will maintain their calm, and they will insist firmly, democratically, peacefully that they will vote. At probably 6 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the morning on October 1st, you will see a lot of people at the polling stations already, making sure, standing in line calmly, ready to place their ballots in those ballot boxes. Catalonia is extremely pro-Europe. We are proud of being part of Europe. We're actually a net contributor to the EU. We fulfill all of the requirements for being a country in Europe. There are 4,000 multinational companies that are based in Catalonia. And there's a strong relationship between Catalonia and other countries in Europe. We see no reason why the European Union won't figure out a pragmatic solution to the issue about Catalonia's membership in the European Union. We expect the European Union to uphold its ideals of democracy and expression, freedom of expression, and to welcome Catalonia.
If there were to be a yes vote in favor of Catalan independence, then we will respect that opinion, but Catalonia will not be able to become an EU member state on the day after such a vote.
On the other hand, if the European Union is pressured by Spain not to do that, Catalonia has other options, like being a member of EFTA, and so being a trading partner with the rest of the European countries. Catalonia can use the euro without anyone's permission. And so even if the European Union should find itself unable or unwilling to welcome Catalonia in the way that I believe that they will, Catalonia has many other options so that it's not so that it won't be a problem. Honestly, I think that it would be hard for Catalonia to avoid being part of the European Union. I think the European Union will be banging down Catalonia's door with a 200 billion euro economy. The media question is complicated, partly because of the language issue. So there's Spanish media and Spanish language media. There's Spanish media and there's Catalan media, and there's some Catalan Spanish-speaking media. So it's a little bit of a mixture of things. Spanish state media are relentlessly unionist. Newspapers that would tend to be mainstream on other issues like El País or El Mundo, which are the major Madrid daily newspapers, are pretty fervently anti-independence. And in fact, for example, when we suffered the terrorist attack of August 17th, El País and El Mundo both immediately came out with articles, editorials saying that Catalonia should give up its silly ideas about independence, because now what was most important was the union, you know, this fight against terrorism. At the same time, they complained that Catalans were using the attack as a way to further independence, which was not at all the truth. So another problem is, in fact, the broadcast media, since 85% of the media that's consumed in Catalonia is actually produced in Spain. And many of for example, the political talk shows are all tend to be biased towards unionism. If they have, you know, 5 or 6 pundits talking about Catalonia, probably 5 of them will be from Spain and 1 will be from Catalonia, and often that Catalan person is a unionist as well. So it's not like they're giving a balanced picture of what's going on. We see that reflected particularly with foreign correspondents who report from Madrid. Their stories are markedly different than the stories from foreign correspondents who are based in Barcelona, because the ones in Barcelona can see for their very eyes what exactly is going on there.
Hello and welcome to Catalan News. It's the second day of mobilisations in Catalonia against Spanish attempts to block the independence referendum. After a very intense day yesterday, with citizens taking to the streets for more than 12 hours of protesting against the arrest of 14 high-ranking officials from the Catalan government, today Catalans started what they warn will be a non-stop mobilisation. Here at Catalan News, we have all the details about what's going on.
On the other hand, we do have the advantage of, one, there is a Catalan broadcasting company. They have a television station, they have radio, which give a much more balanced view. In fact, they do have unionists and independentists in their debates and on their radio and TV shows. It's a much broader view of what the situation is. And we also have the fact that there are social media, Twitter, Facebook, WhatsApp even, that give people an alternative to just the news that they're receiving. They can go out and look for different stories and really see a broader picture. But certainly the effect of the mass media in Spain is difficult. It's difficult. Also, another thing is that people in the rest of Spain are only getting the Spanish side of the question, and partly because most of the Catalan media is in Catalan, which people in Spain don't understand, so they're not getting the Catalan side. That's another issue to be taken into account. Parallels between Catalonia and Scotland, the most basic one is that this idea that a people should be able to have the right to vote themselves on their own future. And so one of the things that Catalans look admiringly towards the Scottish issue is that Scotland was able to vote. They were able to have a real debate, even though there may have been problems with the media coverage or with with the fear campaign, et cetera, but at least they were allowed to have a legal referendum. That's something that Catalonia has not yet been able to do. Well, one of the things back in 2014 that we found interesting about the Scots voting before our non-official poll in November was the issue of the European Union. And in fact, we saw after the Brexit vote, the fact that Scotland had voted in favor of remaining in Europe, and that European politicians then immediately courted Nicola Sturgeon and were very welcoming to Scotland. We looked at that from Catalonia as an indication of what will happen when Catalonia becomes independent, because we believe that Europe will also want Catalonia to be part of the Union. But for me, the most important parallel is that each country or each nation that wants to choose its own future, it's not necessarily about putting up borders or putting up frontiers or putting up walls. In fact, it's not like that at all. Not for Scotland and not for Catalonia. It's not about excluding people. It's not about, certainly not about hating people from other places. It's more about choosing how you want your government to run, what kind of laws you want to have. There's equal rights laws, there's an anti-bullfighting law, there's a desire to welcome more refugees, and all of those initiatives have been turned over by Spain that's not listening to the kind of laws that Catalonia wants. So Catalan independence is about choosing how to govern more than putting up walls or borders. I wouldn't want to presume to give lessons to anyone. One of the things that I admire about the Catalan independence movement is that it's a broad-based movement. It's not just a party of the left, it's not just a party of the right. It's actually a wide spectrum of political parties, and there's a huge contingent of people who consider themselves non-political and certainly non-partisan. And that diversity is wildly difficult to manage because people don't agree with each other within the movement about all sorts of different issues. You know, whether we should have an army, whether there should be an official language, what kind of schooling policy there should be, what kind of economic development policies there should be. There's not a lot of consensus about what kind of country should come out of it, but at the same time, that broad-based movement is kind of an image, a reflection of the diverse country that will come out after the referendum, which I think is a really positive, a positive view of the future. And so I think that somehow encouraging or finding this diverse society that's in favor of independence has been a really effective an effective tool. Having the referendums, having the non-official referendums, doing things that at first glance seem kind of quixotic and that might not have a big effect. You know, that first poll in the tiny town of Arenys de Munt had an incredible effect on the whole movement. So sometimes I think people discount kind of crazy efforts that, after all, are more effective than they seem to be at first glance. There's also been a lot of creativity. There's been concerts and conferences and debates and different kinds of marches and dinners, and it's kind of remarkable the creativity that's gone into the independence movement in Catalonia. One of the things that that I think about independence movements is that it doesn't work to do the same thing twice. Like, you have to keep thinking of new things and different strategies. So I'm not sure like copying what we've done in Catalonia would work in Scotland. It's a different society here, and people think about things from a different point of view. There's different issues that are important. So it seems like you have to figure out what's the thing that connects with people, what's the thing that you know, matters to people, and mostly I think it's about respect. It's about listening to people and hearing what it is that they want. That's it. Listening to people and being receptive to their needs. That's what I mean. People want to be heard, and one of the reasons that the Catalan independence movement has been so strong is because Spain has refused to listen. Not even listen. Like, it's one thing is to say no, but they haven't even been willing to listen to why. And so I think that listening part's really important. 2012 in September was the first march that was organized by the Catalan National Assembly. The march in September actually began in June when they had the first practice march in a town called Lleida. And I remember people going, why are they having another march? This is just a drag. This is kind of boring. They're doing the same old thing. Why are they doing this? But they did it anyway. And after the one in June in Lleida, they actually organized, they being the Catalan National Assembly, 482 different practice marches throughout Catalonia. In every little town where there was a local chapter of the Catalan National Assembly, they had a practice march. And maybe there was 50 people or 100 people or 200 people, it didn't matter, because what was important was that they were creating this infrastructure all over the country of people who are interested in independence. And so there was the event itself of having that practice march, but there was also creating the infrastructure, the group in each of those little towns, the people who were willing to call up the different organizations in the town or get the permit or set up the tables or hand out pamphlets or explain what the march was about. And all of that together resulted in that first march in September in Barcelona, 2012, being an incredible success of more than 1 million people. So I think that diversifying, that spreading out of the whole movement in all of these local places and getting people on the ground in all of those places working together and figuring out how to harness that creativity and that energy was key for Catalonia at least. I think one of the most important things that Scots can do is watch and speak out about Spanish aggressions, because the Spanish think that they can do whatever they want. They think they have free rein to cart off people to jail for printing ballots or for organizing a referendum, and they need to know that the world is watching them. They need to know that that Scotland and Europe and the rest of the world are upholding, democratic ideals like being able to vote, like holding a referendum is not illegal. It's not even illegal in Spain. It's not illegal according to the Constitution. It's not illegal according to several constitutional scholars, many constitutional scholars. But the Spanish government is running roughshod over its own laws while it says that holding a referendum is against its own laws. It's not right. And what we need is for the community, the world community, to stand up and tell Spain to back off.